Hi, AFI Movie Club. My name is Unjoo Moon, and I'm the director of I Am Woman, and I'm also a really proud alumni of AFI.
We have to go to the funeral. When is it?
We come into the scene just after Helen and Lillian have had a really big fight. Helen leaves her best friend and doesn't ever get to say goodbye to her. And at the beginning of this scene, Jeff Wald, her husband and manager, has just come in and told her that Lillian has died. This was a really challenging scene to shoot because being an indie movie, we're on such a tight schedule. And this was such an emotional scene after having shot so many different things during the day. When you cast a biopic, you have an audience that really remembers the person that you're making the movie about, in this case, Helen Reddy.
Crazy person, what are you talking about? We can't. I look like an asshole.
You sound like one.
Don't you put this on me.
I did an extensive search for Tilda, who played Helen Reddy in the movie. She was able to do a lot of research, but we also did a very intensive 6-week rehearsal period where we really supported her with voice lessons and movement classes and singing classes, even breathing classes, so that she could really find her way into this character. Of course, once you start shooting, it becomes about really throwing a lot of that away and being really in the moment.
You and me against the world. Sometimes it feels like you and me against the world.
This song, You and Me Against the World, really works so perfectly here for me. And I really thought of this movie a lot as a musical and really wanted to place Helen's greatest hits in these very emotional moments of her life and hope that they would help tell the story as well. This part of the film is really transitioning time for Helen and also the breakdown of her marriage with Jeff Wald, who is so brilliantly played by Evan Peters. Evan brings this incredible energy to the movie, and the way he works is always so full of spontaneity, and he really embraces the moment in a way that helps everybody in the movie, and it really helped Tilda in her performance as well. We shot this film primarily in Australia. In fact, we shot the whole film in Australia except for 3 days that we shot on location. And we ended up recreating Los Angeles, New York, Washington, Las Vegas in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, all in Australia. It really helped that we had a production designer who really had lived in a lot of these places. He's an Australian, Michael Turner, but he really knew a lot of these locations. And the cinematographer and I, the brilliant and incredible Dion Beebe, had visited a lot of these actual locations in all the cities. So when we came to recreating them in Australia, we had a really clear idea of what we were trying to do.
You and me against the world.
And of course, when you have a limited budget and you don't have the depth of focus you can have in a lot of locations, lighting becomes so key in creating the world, which Dion did so brilliantly. Dion and I have known each other since we were really young and at undergraduate film school in Australia. We both actually came out of undergraduate film school together, where we met and fell in love. He's my husband. But we actually came out of film school and worked on a lot of music videos together. I think it's been really amazing that he has been so fortunate to embrace some of the best musicals that have been made in our generation, because we both really love the power of music. When I think about Helen, I think about and her iconic song, I Am Woman, I think about a time in my life when I was a young girl, and the women in my life, the women who were my role models, my mother, her friends, who at that time were mostly housewives and homemakers because of the era. They were bright, beautiful, intelligent women. But I just remember so clearly that when her song used to come on the radio, how it used to somehow transform these women in my life. And suddenly they'd be in the car and rolling down the windows of their Volvos, letting their hair loose in the breeze and putting their fists in the air and singing really loudly. I think I always equated Helen Reddy and her music with change for women. I screened it with Helen and her two children. And halfway during the film, I realized she was really laughing and commenting and singing along to her songs. And I realized she was so engaged with the story. And then at the end of the film, the title cards came up. And when the last card came up and it talks about the Equal Rights Amendment and how equality has never been put into the Constitution for women in the US Constitution, Helen started to cry. And it was an incredibly moving experience because I realized that Helen was crying and embracing everything about this movie. She hugged her children and then she hugged me. And then I knew I had a blessing to continue.